Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to the Drive Time Show. You have myself, Shoaib Iqbal. I'm going to be your host on a Tuesday evening doing this Drive Time Show from 5 till 7. And we've got some fun and games and some really exciting guests lined up over the next few weeks for you guys. We are going to be focusing our attention today, being the start of Ramadan. What we're going to be looking at is health, fitness, wellness and well-being during Ramadan. That's what we're going to be focusing on, and that's what our guests are based on today. But we're going to be talking about a whole heap of stuff. I want to know what you guys are up to. I want to know how you guys are getting on in Ramadan. I want to know how you're finding your first few fasts. What are you having for iftari tonight, man? More importantly, what is cooking tonight? What are you having when you get home? I want to know. Are you having your iftari out? Are you one of those guys, one of those people that likes to have iftar at home and just kind of chill out? Or, you know, are you one of those people who likes to kind of go out and test out a few places and all the rest of it? So talk to me about your iftars. Talk to me about what's happening out there in the world at this moment in time. It's coming on to a year since the Grenfell Tower tragedy, and one of our guests is going to be coming on and talking about that in a little bit more depth a little bit later on. Also a year since the tragic events last year, more or less, on the Southwark with the explosions and stuff. But look, before we go any further, let me introduce our guest here in the studio today. So we have here today, it's actually a very good old friend of mine. I think I'd disrespect him if I told everyone he was one of my ex-students, but I've already done it, so it's too late. So we have Greg Lyon Lowe with us today. Greg is a personal trainer. He's also a Czech practitioner. So he's been in the industry now for about 24, 25 years. So look, I'll let him tell you about himself, man. So hi, Greg, how you doing?
All good, all good. Glad to be here. It's a real pleasure.
Yeah?
Yeah, and just a quick bit about myself. Just been in the health and fitness industry for 24 years. Lots of different capacities as a personal trainer, health, group fitness trainer, but more recently the stuff which I'm really focused on now is as a Czech practitioner, where I do corrective exercise coaching and lifestyle coaching for people, and it's really made a big difference in the way that I work with people. So so when you say group exercise, you mean classes, right? Yeah, that's what me and my, you know, generally we'd tell things like boxercise and circuits and spinning and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, group X is great for people who need a bit more of a motivated by other people in the environment rather than just a one-to-one, which some people can find a bit overwhelming, where you've just got a trainer right in your face right now. Other people do need that one-to-one. So there's something for everybody. We've also got another familiar voice in the studio here. We've got my cousin, who everybody knows, Haider Ali. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, everybody.
How are you doing? No, what do you mean everybody? It's me that said salam to you, bro. So I'm saying
salam to you and everybody.
Okay, that's all right then. That's all right then. How are you today, my bro?
Alhamdulillah, how are you, bro?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. How's the Rosa today, bro?
Alhamdulillah, Rosa's all right today. I've just been at home, so it went pretty easy today.
Yeah, in your wise words, is it lugging today, bro?
Not as much as yesterday.
Yesterday was lugging,
Yesterday was a little bit lugging.
Okay, so what was the difference between yesterday and today?
Yesterday I was out, and yesterday I was at work. And today.
You're a man of leisure today, yeah? You're a man of leisure. Okay, great. So, guys, coming back a little bit there to Greg, we're going to take the focus away from Greg for a little while, but Greg is here and he's available to take your phone calls today. So any questions that you've got, guys, about any little niggly sort of injuries you might have, or any training questions, exercise questions, Greg, you're happy to answer those questions today, right?
And, the ones which are really interested in is actually people's training plans through Ramadan, through this month. How are people with their fasting, breaking their fast, when to actually train that's going to be safe and effective.
Yeah.
And in this time, how to make the adaptations so they can still, stay with their plans. So I've got a few ideas.
Okay. Share. Awesome. So guys, get on the phone. But before you get on the phone, don't get on the phone now, please. Yeah, because we've got a very, 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 very special guest lined up. We've got Dr. Zafar Iqbal, who is on the phone with us right now. So just bear with me for a second. Let's see if we can get this right. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Dr. Zafar Iqbal, how you doing?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So I was just giving you the massive intro, and my studio assistant just kind of waving at the door saying he's on already. So the crescendo, man, there was no crescendo for you. I'm really sorry for that, man.
It's okay, don't worry, not at all.
But it's all good. So listen, rather than me giving you the big intro, Dr. Saab, why don't you tell all of our listeners a little bit about yourself? Because, we've probably got some people out there, some of our uncles, some of our mothers, some of our sisters who don't necessarily follow sport or anything. So just tell us a little bit about kind of who you are, where you've come from, and what you're doing at this moment in time.
Okay, I think the most important thing then for the uncle and auntie G's is I'm a doctor, so that hopefully should put me in good stead with most of those.
You know, all that's gonna do, Zafar Bhai, is bring in Rishteh, bro. That's all that's gonna do now that you've told them you're a doctor.
Well, alhamdulillah, mashallah, I'm very happily married as well.
Once.
So that isn't going to happen.
No worries.
That definitely isn't going to happen.
Alhamdulillah. So yeah, please do carry on. Sorry. So you're
sure. So my background is I'm a consultant in sports and exercise medicine. I'm not a physio, as other people keep labeling me as, but I am a proper doctor. But I went into the field of sports and exercise medicine because I got an injury to my knee playing football. There was poor care that I received in the NHS, and I started studying more in sports medicine area. One thing led to another. I was fortunate to work at a few football clubs, and just moved on from there. So I started off with the England youth teams, then Leyton Orient Football Club, then got an opportunity at Tottenham Hotspur. Then I had a stint at Liverpool, where my wife kindly allowed me to go up for a few years. But then after 5 years of me being by myself up there, wife said, okay, enough's enough, you've had your fun, time to come back down. Came back to London, and now I'm the head of sports medicine at Crystal Palace Football Club.
MashaAllah. So, are you? Sorry, I need to ask. Are you a Liverpool fan at heart yourself?
I am, but as I say, I support whichever team I'm working with, because at the end of the day, they put the food on the table.
Alhamdulillah.
But if I wasn't working at any particular football club, Liverpool would be the team that I'd be following.
Awesome. So listen, we are very, very privileged to have you on the show today. We really appreciate you taking out time from your very, very busy schedule to come and entertain us and our listeners. Now, I think one of the key reasons that we wanted you to come on, Dr. Zafar, is that we've got a lot of, look, I added you up on my, linked up on LinkedIn, and I don't know if you had a look at my profile or not, but I'm a sports scientist myself by trade. So, I worked as a senior exercise specialist and personal trainer. I did that for about 10 years. I then lectured sports science. I was a sports science lecturer for about, I did that for about 10 years as well.
You lectured me as well.
Yeah. So I've got one of our guests in the studio who's a Czech practitioner. He's a personal trainer. He did his qualification with me a few years ago as well. So Greg, feel free to say hi to Zafar, man.
Yeah, Dr. Zafar, it's great to have you with us, and your level of experience as well. I mean, like, my level of training is, I can add it up within 1 year. That's brought me to this point, but obviously your medical training gives such a bigger in-depth support to what we do. And also when it comes to, let's say, listening to your story about how you injured your knee and you didn't get the help that was required, was similar myself, where back injury, wasn't getting the help that required, or was getting people telling me certain things but not giving me the actual reason why. So it should be really interested to hear more about how your approach to your team and how you do your work has come from your own experience.
Sure.
So before you answer any questions, Dr. Safar, I've got to ask you, man, I'm a Liverpool fan as well. What was it like working with Luis Suarez in a short sentence? He must have been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, it was excellent. He's very, very intense in terms of training. What you saw on the football pitch in terms of how hard he worked, he was the same in training. It didn't matter whether he scored a 1-yard tap-in or a 30-yard goal. He celebrated exactly the same way as if he's just won the World Cup. He was just brilliant. I really got on well with him. Everyone in the team loved him because of the effort that he put in. But he was also very generous as well, not only with his teammates, with myself as well. He knew that I supported various charities and various Muslim charities, and he was always willing to donate his shirts and boots and stuff, whatever, and he was always interested in terms of, how much they were raised and stuff. All round, as I said, he was very, very intense in terms of on the pitch. Off the pitch, he was a very funny guy and liked by all, and I had a great time with him and with all the other players up there.
Awesome. Well, look, Dr. Zafar, we've got a few questions that some of our callers have sent in, and I think sorry, not our callers, our listeners have sent in. And one of the other key reasons that we really wanted to kind of pick your brains, both myself and Greg, and the whole point of me kind of, not highlighting, but bringing out the fact that I'm a sports scientist and I've got a background as well, was not just to kind of throw my qualifications out there, but was to just explain the fact that so many people come up to me and say, Shoaib, Ramadan's coming. How do I train during Ramadan? Do I train during Ramadan? Don't I train? What do I do? Do I do my cardio? Do I do it before iftar? Do I do it after iftar? And with the, Ramadan being as it is, in terms of the length of the days at this moment in time, the whole situation becomes so tricky. Now, you've probably dealt with that 1,000,001 times. Now, let me just rewind back to the beginning, and I do apologize, Dr. Saab, for not saying Ramadan Mubarak for you as soon as we got on the phone. How is your Ramadan going? How is it going so far?
It's fine until somebody asks me about it.
Okay. Well, there you go. We're getting on great here, aren't we, Greg? You might want to take this conversation over, bud.
No.
Okay, I'm messing around. So, look, yes. So, coming back to what we were saying, training during Ramadan. I mean, you've probably worked with athletes, Premier League footballers. You work with cricketers as well, isn't it, Dr. Saab?
That's right. I've worked with a few cricketers who've come over from abroad who've been unfortunate. They don't quite get the same facilities and setup that we're fortunate to have in the UK. And as I say, I've been very fortunate to be working in this country with elite athletes. And being born of a Pakistani origin, I feel I've been very fortunate and being able to give something back. So there are a few Pakistani cricketers that come over with longer term injuries, and we've been at Crystal Palace. We've been fortunate to be able to help them out.
Alhamdulillah. So Dr. Saab, listen, talk to us then about training during Ramadan. What do we do? Do we do it? Don't we do it? Do we go cardio? Do we go before iftar, after iftar, before sehri? What's going on? I'm just confused myself, man, because all of the things that I'm reading and seeing out there.
No, sure. Look, as you rightly pointed out, it's very difficult, and I don't think Ramadan is the time to actually try and get fit. So if you haven't been doing a gym program before, I can honestly say that Ramadan probably isn't the ideal time to start a new regime. The simple reason for that is that it may actually put you off. So if you're thinking that you're going to become fitter during Ramadan and have not done any exercise before, it's going to be even more harder. So I wouldn't start a new program during Ramadan. That's the first thing. The other thing is, to try and make yourself fitter during Ramadan is probably going to be difficult. The main reason for that is the things that you probably already highlighted as a sports scientist. Hydration, replacing energy stores, getting enough recovery and sleep are much more difficult during Ramadan, not only because of the fact that the times that you have to get up, but also the times that you can eat and drink. So normally hydration, when you're doing activities, you can do that while you're actually doing the sport, and you can hydrate yourself. Obviously, you can't do that during Ramadan. So what I try and say to people is try and maintain your fitness as much as possible. So it's not trying to get fitter, but try not to lose more muscle. But it's important that you do a little bit. So that comes down to timing. So the ideal times to try and do some training are either just before iftar, and the main reason for that is that you've been fasted, and so that's the ideal time to try and burn off some fat. So our football players, if we're trying to get them to lose some fat, they'll have fasted overnight. First thing in the morning, they'll do a fat burning session. So they'll do 4 by 4 minutes on a bike. So there's no reason why we can't do the same. So just before iftar, you can do 4 by 4 minutes on a bike. And then the advantage then is that you don't have to wait too long to actually take a recovery drink and hydrate yourself. If you do that too early in the day, then what's going to end up happening? You're going to lose a lot of your glycogen. That's going to get used up, and you're going to feel extremely tired. So that's why it's really important that you either do it close to iftar, or if you can, if you feel that you haven't got enough energy to do it before iftar, have a small meal, wait 2 hours, and then do. And the reason you have to wait 2 hours is to allow the food to get out of the stomach, because all the blood is going to be diverted to the stomach. Wait 2 hours, then do a small session. And the advantage of that is that you've got a little bit of energy on board. You can do some exercise, but you can immediately hydrate yourself and take a recovery drink if that's what you require. So there's 2 times that I would recommend, either just before iftar or 2 hours after iftar.
Okay. Gonna just come in on the with the late training. Some people are looking at the later time after they've eaten, and they're thinking, well, where can I go to train? Where am I actually going to get a training session in? What's good in a more metropolitan area, like let's say a bigger city, is there's quite a few gyms now which are running 24 hours. So you can get late training in. And you can get, for the month of Ramadan, you just get a 1 month membership. And also, just to definitely concur with you, Dr. Sefa, that this is not the time. Any newbies, hold off. It's for the existing people who are training, and the gains, you're not going to make any gains, not in this month. It's just maintenance, basically.
Yeah, I mean, look, largely, you're in a very, very catabolic state anyway, isn't it? To be fair, and for our listeners out there, what we mean by catabolic is there's two key phrases, and I'm sure Dr. Zafar can elaborate if need be. But there's anabolic, which means a muscle building phase, isn't it? This is when your body is building, you're getting growth, and then the complete opposite of that is catabolic. Now, when we're hungry, what happens is that the body goes catabolic, so it's actually breaking down our muscle tissue into protein, converting that protein into sugars, or carbohydrates as they're called, and then breaking those down to produce energy, which is a process, Dr. Saab, which is called gluconeogenesis, isn't it? Now, and this, I still remember it from 10 years ago. There you go. My point is that it then, you see, one question that I then have for you is because I've always said to people, do you know what? Don't do it. Just take the month off during Ramadan, rightly or wrongly, is what I've always said. And the reason for that being is I just don't see where the body's catabolic, even if you're doing, whether you're doing cardio, whether you're doing resistance, is it going to have any benefit whatsoever in terms of, because when you are training, where is the energy coming from? And this is where that debate comes up, I'm sure, about fasted and non-fasted, isn't it?
Sure, but to be honest, so the glycogen stores that you have in your body normally is about 8 to 12 hours, and obviously if you exercise, you will burn that up far quicker. But the theory about the fact the body being in a catabolic state, that's fine if you're fasting for more than 4 days, i.e. if you've not got any food for more than 2 to 4 days. We, during Ramadan, at least have the advantage that we can take on food and replace our glycogen stores between the times of darkness. So I wouldn't get too concerned about actually I'm going to lose lots of muscle. I think you're going to lose more muscle, not by exercising, but by doing nothing. So if you imagine you just get your leg and you just put that in a plaster cast, and you look at that leg in 3 weeks' time, it will be much wasted. Okay? So what we do with our football players, any sort of muscle, if we know that they're going to be immobilized, we at least provide some stimulation to it. So we have special machines which are nerve stimulators, muscle stimulators, and so they will actually stimulate the muscle. So you won't get the same effect as you would be normally training, but at least it has provide some response. So I certainly wouldn't say to anybody, don't do anything. And as your colleague there said as well, that there are ways around it. I'd go even one step further. Look, even just using a body weight at home, even just doing press-ups, squats, that at least is providing some stimulation. So you don't have to go to the gym. It's about maintenance. So doing something rather than nothing. So I wouldn't say to anybody, especially somebody who's concerned about maintaining some level of fitness, about doing nothing and taking that month off. As I work with footballers, and some footballers, they'll even fast during games. Some footballers find that difficult, and they will just fast during training. Same with quite a few of the cricketers. Moeen Ali has openly said that he fasts during games, and he finds that mentally that helps him. There's Sonny Bill Williams, who's a rugby player for the All Blacks. He himself, he fasts during games as well. Last year, when he was over here, apparently he was fasting during the games. So it is possible, no doubt. It is harder, but everything, as I said, during Ramadan is harder. And it's about what we certainly don't do is, and I don't do advise is like, okay, stop everything and try and make it completely easy on yourself. I think some exercise is certainly necessary if you're somebody that likes to do regular exercise.
Okay. Awesome.
Can I just come in just one point? I was just something I wrote down when you first started talking about your players doing 4x4, and I put a question mark next to it. What is 4x4? Here I am. I'm a trainer myself, and I'm not sure what 4x4 is.
Okay, so it's 4 minutes of 4 times 4 minutes on the bike. So what they'll do is normally 75% max heart rate. So in terms of fat burner, basically.
Okay.
So sorry, I should have explained that.
And what's the work to rest ratio there, Doc?
So they'll have a minute's rest in between.
Okay, so 4 minutes on, 1 minute off, yeah?
Yeah, 1 minute rest, yeah.
Okay.
So it literally is just a fat burner. It's just for those guys that come in first thing in the morning, because they've got a training session as well. So they'll come in fasted, they'll do that, and then they'll go and have their breakfast, a little bit of protein, a little bit of carbs, and then 2 hours later, they'll then do their normal training session.
Is that full fasted, Dr. Sabo? Will they have maybe a caffeine hit beforehand?
No, that'll be fully fasted, so they'll have had nothing overnight.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, look, Dr. Sabo, I've got a few questions which some of our listeners put in.
Sure.
And I'd just like to move over to those because I'm conscious that you've got to get back to your bits and pieces as well, isn't it? You've got a very busy schedule. So, first one I've got here is what was the most difficult injury you had to deal with?
Gosh, I think it's always any difficult injury is one that the player doesn't come back at the time that you expect them to come back with. Because to be honest, I've seen quite a lot of what other people would term difficult injuries. The long-term injuries are always difficult for both the player and the staff, because trying to keep the player motivated and to keep them continuing on the rehab pathway. So I think ankle fracture dislocations are always difficult, certainly from the player perspective and also from the medical team, because unlike muscle injuries, where you can get an idea in terms of how bad or how extensive the muscle injury is, you get a rough idea in terms of when they're likely to return. Things like ankle joints and knee joints, especially if there's cartilage involvement, players vary in terms of how long they take to return, and that can be quite frustrating. So I'm trying to look back in terms of it's usually those that involve the cartilage, where they're getting recurrent swellings, and those are quite difficult to actually manage, to try and reassure the player that it's just something that is going to take time. And sometimes in those particular type of injuries, less is more. I think those are the ones that are a little bit more difficult to manage because you can't give them the confidence or the time frame.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Zafais. Hader, I'm on the show as well.
How
you doing? You okay? Ramadan Mubarak. Doctor, I just wanted to ask, right, on a normal day, let's say it's not Ramadan, would you recommend intermittent fasting? So fasting and then working out as well?
Intermittent fasting.
Intermittent and fasting.
Okay, so it's a difficult one. I think it comes down to the individual on that again, in how comfortable they are and how they feel with that and what benefits they're actually going to get from that. And again, it comes down to timing, because there's no point doing any sort of session, whether it be intermittent, strength or resistance session, and you don't feel that you're going to get a benefit from it, or that it's going to make you feel worse. So it's, as I said, the balance that you've got to get is doing nothing. I don't think is an option, but you're not going to be able to do what you were able to do when you were fasting normally. Sorry, when you weren't fasting. Apologies. So it's trying to get the balance. For me, it's the main thing is just getting that, maintaining muscle. I think that's usually the hardest one. In terms of fitness training, that, as I said, you can quite easily pick that up after Ramadan, but it's losing the muscle. I think that's the key one, and just trying, for a lot of people, just trying to, because you can lose muscle very, very quickly by doing nothing. So I put priority on in terms of trying to maintain muscle and just doing a little bit of strength training during Ramadan.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Did you have something else, Heather?
Yeah, I was just going to finish. Is that right?
Go on. Yeah.
Yeah. So, doctor, so it on a normal day, so you wouldn't recommend it at all. So there's no benefit from actually doing it. So let's say I'm on a fat burner program, and I'm doing intermittent and fasting. You wouldn't.
Yeah. It's as I say, it's not. You'd have to look at in terms of with regards to. It depends what intensity you're doing and what exactly the intermittent training involved. And I haven't found anywhere that there's an advantage of doing intermittent training while fasting. So that's what you're talking about. You're talking about intermittent training while fasting, yeah? So what when you're talking about intermittent training program, what does that consist for you?
Just some cardio and just some light weights.
Okay. So, as I said, look, there's no reason why you can't do that. You've got to bear in mind that certainly in terms of the cardio, you're going to use your glycogen stores much more quickly. So, I wouldn't really do that during the fasting period. I would do that. I would do that either just before iftar, so you've got the opportunity to replace that glycogen, or I would do that at the times of darkness. Because if you try and do that any of the time during the day, I think that you're going to use your glycogen stores more quickly, and then you're going to feel more fatigued, and that may put people off.
Yeah.
Doctor, is it all right to just come in and ask you a question regarding, so just prior to breaking the fast during Ramadan, there's a fat-burning enzyme called lipase. Would that be, so if you're about to break your fast and you did, like, say, a light 20, 30 minutes, even just going for a walk, would that be enough to spin up the lipase to help with your fat burning, even though you're going to break your fast? I haven't actually figured this one out myself, so that's why I'm asking.
I've not actually put me in the spot there. I wouldn't be able to. I'd have to look into that, really, in terms of what level one. I think we might confuse the audience here as well.
Yeah, okay.
In terms of going into that detail.
No technical talk here, boys. No technical talk.
Sure. You got me in the room.
Oh, yeah. So coming back to some of our listeners' questions, then, yeah. So another question that we had was that mental impact. What kind of mental impact do injuries have on players?
It varies from players to players. I would have some players who were so mentally strong that as soon as they got the injury, they'd already made their mind up in terms of when they're going to return, and they would make sure that they would return at that moment in time. I've had certain players who, even despite injuries, they were able to block that out and able to perform to a very high level. And again, I'm not saying anything which is confidential. It was out in the open news. Luis Suarez who was unbelievably mentally strong in terms of himself and the way that he performed. I think you might remember back in 2014 where he had an injury, and everybody else was saying that it's going to be a good 6 to 10 weeks before he returns. He returned at about 3 weeks, played against England. Everyone knew that he's probably only at 70%, but he scored 2 goals and was man of the match. So it varies from people to people, where you get other players who they will get an injury and unless they're 100%, they don't feel that they can perform. That's not to say that they're mentally weak. That's just because they may not be as confident in terms of their ability, in terms of what skills they can bring to a football pitch. They may rely purely on pace or power to be able to perform, whereas other players may have technically maybe better, not need to rely on the pace and be 100% fit to be able to perform. So certainly in terms of mental impact, is something that we assess players, so we ask their readiness to return to training, how confident they feel. We try and give them as much confidence as possible by a lot of the objective testing that we do. So before they return, we make sure that they're doing similar on the pitch to what they would be doing in training in terms of sprint speeds, total distance that they've run. Also in terms of their strength, we make sure that we have certain machines which can measure their strength and make sure that it's similar to the other side, or certainly within 10%. So we try and give them confidence that way. But as I said, it really does vary from player to player. Some players that we've had to, because they've had quite a difficult injury, we've had to get psychologists involved to try and get them to understand that, unfortunately, different people's bodies behave in different ways, and sometimes it's getting them to understand that they've got to be able to cope with this, and it's part of being a professional athlete, that injuries are inevitable, and that the only way that they can get out of that is they've got to continue with the rehab plan. Otherwise, doing nothing isn't an option. So it really does, yes, it's something that we're assessing on a regular basis, both in training and certainly in terms of injury management, and is something we look out for.
Okay, and last question we've had from one of our listeners is if a player is fit to play, but he's mentally not there. So that for me means that he's not quite ready to play, to be honest. But, take it as you will. So this is how it reads. If a player is fit to play, but he's mentally not there, is pressure put on him to play? Is that something that you've seen before?
Look, there's always pressure. Every single game is massively important. So there'll be pressure from his teammates. There'll be pressure from obviously the manager will want all his best players available. From the medical team, all we can do is try and support the player as we're the player's advocate, and we try and give the player as much support as possible. So whether that be by any testing that we're doing, any investigation that we're doing, and in terms of pressure, look, every day, every single player, I'm under pressure to try and get them out for training as quickly as possible. But at the same time, I've also got to realize that if the player loses confidence in me, if I push a player out there and give them false reassurance and they break down, then guaranteed there's only going to be one person to blame, and that's the medical team. That's the manager, the other players. Everybody's going to look at me. So it's I've got to be comfortable with what I'm telling the players, that I've got to be as honest as possible, and the pressure that I'm putting on him is really the confidence that I'm giving him from any of the testing or investigations or assessments that we've done. But what I certainly couldn't do myself, I couldn't give him false reassurance just because the manager said, right, you've got to get that player onto that pitch regardless, because guaranteed if it goes wrong, I'm not going to be having anybody supporting me and saying that, don't worry, I told the doc to say that. You know, everyone looks out for their own interest. I'm the player's advocate, and I've got to try and reassure him and give him as much confidence as possible.
Okay. So, Dr. Saab, just to finish off then, because you got to shoot off, I think, in a couple of minutes, isn't it? But just to sort of totally divert, you know, we've talked about quite a lot, to be fair. But you're a cricket lover yourself, aren't you?
Sure, that's right.
Yeah, and I take it Pakistan's your team.
It's one of my teams, yes. So. When they're not playing England, Pakistan. Sorry,
it's always a tough one, isn't it? When a tough one.
Yeah. No. When they're playing England, Pakistan's my team.
Okay, excellent, awesome. So, what do you reckon? Test match starts tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Thursday, isn't it?
Thursday.
So, what are you thinking, man? What are the chances?
It's going to be tough. I mean, there's if you look at the actual Pakistani team now, they've got obviously got some experienced players still there in terms of Azhar Ali, and they've got some exciting players who've been given the opportunity as well in terms of Haris Sahel, Babar Azam. I think the difficulty is that you've lost, obviously, Misbah and Yunus in terms of your real experienced players there, but you've got some exciting young talent coming through as well. It's going to be difficult, and I think the conditions are going to play a major role in it. Certainly, if the ball is going to start to swing, then that is going to definitely favour the England team. But let's see. As I say, cricket, as with any sport, it can change very quickly, and you need a combination of good luck and conditions which are favourable to you.
Okay. Well, look, your parting shot, Dr. Saab, I'll ask you to send out a message for our mothers and our sisters and our aunties out there, yeah? Because, look, as health professionals and, as medical professionals, we all know our sisters, our mothers, our aunties, they're not getting up and about as much as they really should do, isn't it? Yeah. So, Dr. Saab, what word of advice would you give them in terms of practically being able to get out there and start doing something?
I'd go one step further. It's one thing in terms of the physical activity, but there's a saying that one of my colleagues says is that you can't outrun a bad diet, and really I'd be focusing more in terms of the diet, and especially during Ramadan. So I'd be banning the laddus, I'd be banning the samosas, I'd be banning the fried food, and in Ramadan even more so, because all that's happening is that you talked about, you're losing your glycogen stores. As soon as you start opening your fast, then people will hammer in all the sugary foods, all the fried foods, and all that's going to happen is you're going to get an immediate sugar rush, your insulin levels are going to go up, and you're going to store that as fat. And then they're going to be going to their GP and saying, I've got diabetes and you've got to give me a tablet. And that's not the answer. It begins at home, it begins with your diet, so stop blaming others, look at what you're putting on the table and start with that first. Physical activity is important. That certainly does play a role in terms of fitness, but it starts with diet massively. And we certainly, from the South Asian community, need to look at our diets and as I said, stop going to the GPs and saying, I've got diabetes and you need to give me a tablet. The best medicine is prevention and what you can do in terms of the diet and how you feed yourselves and others at home.
Absolutely. We are what we eat, isn't it, Doctor?
Exactly.
What we eat. So, listen, Doctor, I'm very, very conscious of your time as opposed to ours, to be fair. We could talk until the cows come home. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show this evening. Thank you so, so much for taking out time.
No worries.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And inshallah, we'll stay in touch and we'll speak soon.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of your Ramadan. And inshallah, we'll speak soon.
Okay.
All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa
alaikum assalam. Okay, so, ladies and gents, brothers and sisters, that was Dr. Zafar Iqbal. ex-Liverpool first team doctor, head of sports medicine at Crystal Palace Football Club, worked with loads of Premier League superstars, coming on, taking time out for us, for our radio station, for our people, for our community. And I just want to kind of impress the importance of this platform, guys. Yeah, I mean, this Radio Ramadan has been running for what, about 3 or 4 years now. And we've got to a point, and I don't know if Greg knows this or not, because at the moment we're only broadcasting via kind of YouTube, Facebook, Mixler, and TuneIn, the app, the radio app. Yeah. Right. Okay. Here's news for you. We've got license to go live.
Frequency.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah. We've got it. We've got it. Now, where is the problem? All right, because we've got our FM license by Ofcom, so we're good to go. But it's like having a driving license, Greg, without a car. Does that make sense? So the issue is that we are in a position where we don't have the equipment that we need to go on air and serve our community and continue having shows like this, which are going to add value not only to our communities, but to our individual lives and help to improve our health and stuff. So what we need is to raise, because look, it's our community. We're the ones that have to take ownership over it. £50,000. Now, £50,000, Greg, it's a lot of money, isn't it?
Get my wallet out now.
Yeah? Some people earn that. Some people are fortunate enough to earn that in a year. All right? A lot of us aren't, unfortunately. But look, did you ever hear of a man called Confucius? Very famous philosopher.
Yes, I have heard.
You know what he said? He said, he who says he can and he who says he can't are both right. They're both right. So my point is this, is we can raise that £50,000 between us as a community. And all it takes, and my maths is shocking, but if 500 people were to donate £100 each, does that add up?
That's it.
Greg's on his phone right now, guys. He's on his phone.
How many people? 500?
500 gave £100 each.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take anyone to give 5,000, or if it was 1,000 people giving 50 quid each. Yeah. So it's not much. We spend, £100. It's nothing these days, isn't it? Yeah. And we need to invest back into our community, guys. Yeah. So look, let's get that show rolling. Let's get those calls coming in, guys. Let's get you donating, and let's get us out on a full-time radio station, man. Full-time. Can you imagine a full-time radio station on FM frequency? We'd have Greg in every bloody week. We would. So. Look, mashallah, guys, we're looking forward to receiving your phone calls. Dr. Zafar Iqbal obviously talking to us. We had there about Ramadan, about health, about fitness, about nutrition, about training, and adding, hopefully, answering a lot of the questions that we've asked ourselves and asked each other, and some of you have even asked me in the past in terms of kind of training and stuff during Ramadan. So look, we're going to have another guest with us at 6 o'clock, and what we're going to be talking about at 6 o'clock is more so now. We've talked about exercise, we've talked about nutrition a little bit. We're going to talk about psychology. And, I'm a big believer, Greg, and I know you're a big believer of this as well, that, you tune your brain into something.
Yes.
And there is absolutely nothing that you cannot achieve.
If you look at a nice way of looking at it, you are the byproduct of your thoughts, whether they're good or bad. I know what you were thinking when you put the shirt on that you're wearing opposite me now. Pink was the colour, I think it was.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's pink.
But with that, it's when somebody looks at their diet and they're wondering, the food choices you make are your own choices. Mm-hmm. And they can be changed as well. So when it comes to if you are not, if you're failing at a fitness program, you've tried something and you keep falling back, it's just something that you need to look at in relation to your thoughts. You can have the best sleep, hydration, nutrition. You could move well, you could breathe well, but if you're not thinking straight, then it's all going to be laid to waste. So you've got to get your head in the game.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's what empowers us. What gives us direction. And the way I sometimes describe it is, it's like getting into a car and just driving. Where are you going?
Where are you going? What's the map?
Exactly. Where are you going? Yeah. Now, if you compare that to now getting in your car and putting a postcode into the sat nav.
Yeah, we love
the sat nav will get you there. It will tell you turn right, turn left, go straight, do this, do that.
I sat nav'd here today.
Yeah, exactly.
I only live down the road, but I still need it.
All right. But look, my point is, and this is the power of our brain, and we don't realize how powerful and how strong that tool is. Yeah. And I think what we're going to do is when Helena Philippou, she's going to come on later on. She's a dear friend of ours, isn't it, Greg?
Yes, she is.
She's just written a book, actually. I don't know if you know, but she's written a book. It's called 40, Fit and Fabulous.
Yeah, that's
so I think she named it after me, basically. All right, but so yes, she's going to be coming on in a second. She's going to be coming on in about 10 minutes to talk about her book, and talk a little bit more about psychology. She's also really, really good and really hot on community issues as well. So I'd love to pick her brains about, it's the 1 year anniversary of like we were saying at the beginning, Grenfell Tower tragedy, and Southwark as well, with the shootings and the bomb blasts and all that. So love to be able to get her thoughts on some of that as well. But guys, listen, call in. We're waiting for your calls. Greg is here. He's got a lot to say, and he wants to, any questions you've got, be it about nutrition, be it about specific exercises, be it about training programs, be it about your goals and objectives, what it is that you want to achieve. Feel free to call in and tap into the great mind that is Greg Lyon Lowe. All right. So Greg, I mean, talk to me. I mean, you're obviously, we didn't really talk much about you, kind of, we were getting there, and then the phone call came through from Dr. Zafar. So where are you working at the moment? Sorry. So you said you'd been in the industry for about 24 years. You were giving yourself the intro.
I've worked in all sorts of places. Mm-hmm. Currently, I'm working over at a Virgin Active in Broadgate, Liverpool Street. So it's a big crowd of people down there. You've got 5,000 members. Mm-hmm. Great team to work with. So I'm happily. I've only been there for the last 7 weeks, but I had been previously over the road. I've been working for the DW Fitness First, and it's just I find it's a great environment where the main people I'm dealing with are people who sit down, desk-based workers who get up in the morning, get on the train, sit down on the train. As soon as they get up, they have a short walk to work, get upstairs, sit down, go to lunch, sit down. Everything's sitting down. You've got these people who are fighting for a seat. You should be fighting to stand up at the end of the day, not sit down.
I hear that.
But then they come down to the gym, and where my main focus is on the people who, after having been sat down and they stand up, they have the postural issues where they have tight muscles in the front of their body, tight muscles in their neck, tight muscles through the hip. And unless you correct this, it can become a problem for people. And it doesn't necessarily show up straight away. You could go your whole working life and just be a little bit stiff with poor posture. But I see people with disc bulges in their back, frozen shoulders, and the mobile phone, the walking down the street leant over, people with their head looking at the ground. We're meant to be an upright creature walking down. A good one also for anybody who does work at a desk is to find out if you can get a desk which you can stand up with. You've got these desks which lift up and will have you in a standing position. There are some people who think, well, how can I stand all day? And my answer to that is, well, shop assistants do. Your coffee barista does. There are plenty of people who are on their feet, walking around, doing upright work all day long. So, and obviously it can be a little bit boring just being on the one spot. But then again, yeah, your screen and your desk. But to get up and stand up, really, really good thing. So if you are a desk-based worker, get onto your HR department, you know, hammer them for an upright desk, and just say to them, you're going to be more productive. There was a BBC...
so hang on a second, let me rewind here.
Yeah.
This upright desk, no chair.
No chair. You have to stand on your feet.
You're standing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We are biped creatures. So,
okay.
You know, 2 feet.
Okay, that's...
So great. That will affect our posture.
Yes, when you're actually... Here's an interesting fact. As we're sitting down here now, if we were to stand up, the pressure in our spine, the intradiscal pressure, I don't know if I said that correctly, the pressure between our discs will drop by 4 times. So when you sit down, the pressure increases by 4 times.
Okay.
Yep. And then basically what's happening is the muscle which will otherwise suspend your spine and your body disengages. As I'm sitting here, pressure's gone up. Obviously people will say, but how do I, but if that's the case, then when I stand up, how can I feel heavier? Isn't there more pressure? That's just your body weight and gravity. We're talking about the actual health of your discs in a sitting position. Okay. And that's when people are sitting down. And the big classic one I deal with is what's called forward head posture. And you'll see somebody at their desk. And if I want to read something in a book, I bring the book towards me. But when people have a screen in front of them, they lean to the screen. And so their head is pushing forward all day long. And they're putting more pressure on the back of their neck. What's good is the fixes are relatively easy. Something you'd have to repeat again and again, but you incorporate it with your program. So that's why at the beginning of the program you said, you know, I do corrective exercise coaching. So I don't just throw exercises at you. I make sure that it's going to be appropriate for you. If somebody needs the fix first, get them the fix, get them back into the correct position, then train them from that point.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, with these being a Czech practitioner, these corrective exercises, it sometimes looks like, you know, because when I first was in the industry and I used to see people doing it, it's like, well, what are you doing with your client? You're not even tickling them.
Okay, some of the exercises can be very subtle. But if that's what you need after you've been assessed, if it's an exercise which is going to give you release a joint, release a muscle, get your head in a different position, get your breathing properly. So many people actually don't know how to breathe properly. And here's one which is quite interesting, that people can have what's called an inverted breathing pattern. And if you watch somebody and they're breathing with their chest, I know you're thinking, well, my lungs are in my chest, aren't they? But if somebody is breathing what's called thoracically from their rib cage, cortisol levels. Cortisol is a hormone, a stress hormone, will raise in the body. And with this stress hormone, these people will be more predisposed to storing fat tissue. So if you were to breathe more diaphragmatically into your tummy, like the opera singers, like say yogic breathing, then that is going to help lower those stress levels. And I'm not saying breathe yourself slim, but just breathe yourself out of the stress.
Yeah, I mean, I had a back injury many years ago, and I went to this physio, and she was like a holistic therapist, Greg. This is before we met, actually, and all she got me to do, literally, was breathe.
Yeah.
All she got me to do was breathe properly. Good on her. And it helped so much, though. And you know, these are the little things that we just take for granted, isn't it? In that we're not breathing properly. It's like, look, I suppose it's almost like trying to drive a sports car which has got a block in the fuel injection system, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't put your foot down if there's a blockage or if there's an issue somewhere in that engine. You need to fix that tiny little problem, then you can drive the car properly, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's, would you say that's a fair kind of analogy of corrective?
I'll come in with one after this, which is to say, what's the most important thing in your life? And on a physical level, what's the number one thing that you need?
Am I allowed to say food because I'm fasting?
Well, if you were to say food, or nutrient, you could say, is it the carbs? Is it the fats? Should I eat broccoli? Should it be this? Should it be that? And I go, no, it's not. The most important thing we need in our life is oxygen.
Yeah.
You need oxygen. You know, you can do without fats, proteins, carbs, water. You can be a bit ropey after a few days. But the thing we're looking at is you're brain dead in 3 minutes if you haven't got oxygen. So, you know, O2 is your number one thing.
Okay.
Sorry, oxygen's your number one.
Okay. Excellent. So, guys, we've got our next guest on the line. Yeah. So, let's see if this works. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello to you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Helena, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very good, thank you. And how are you?
I'm really, really well, thank you. So, Helena, I know you obviously can't see into our studio, but I've got a very dear friend of ours here. So, do you want to introduce yourself?
It's Greg. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Long time, my dear. How are you?
All well. We have to catch up.
Yes. Not now. This is for the community. This is for the community. This is not for us, yeah? And we've got my cousin Haida here as well. Haida, do you want to say hi to Helena?
Hello, Helena. How are you? You all right?
Hiya.
Hey.
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Excellent. So, listen, Helena, for the benefit of our listeners, would you like to tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, where you've come from, you know, all of that kind of stuff? Who is Helena Philippou? Why is she on this show?
Who is Helena? Okay, I'm a very spiritual soul. Qualified personal trainer, nutritionist. I've just released a book, an ebook on Amazon entitled 40 Fit and Fabulous. The first book edition, basically explaining about the mindset. The next one I'm due to publish is about nutrition, and the third one's going to be regards to exercises, what exercises to do, what works, what doesn't, basically as well. But I do a bit of writing on the side, bit of voiceover work, and I'm just getting into spiritual coaching.
Okay. So, but you come from a psychology background, isn't it? Primarily.
I do indeed. Yes.
And then secondarily, you come from a fitness background, which was taught to you by some random fella somewhere, wasn't it? Yeah. But
yeah, I don't know what his name is. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, look, first of all, Helena, listen, tell us about your book, because I'm sure we've got people listening into the show, because it's called 40 Fit and Fabulous. We were just talking about, me and Greg and Haida were just talking about it, and I'm presuming it's kind of looking at people as they start to kind of get on a little bit in their years and start to think, well, maybe I can't be fit, maybe I can't be fabulous, maybe I can't fit into my wedding suit or my wedding dress again. Is that the kind of theory behind it, Helena?
Well, it is. I mean, I used to weigh 15 stones, and my mission was 30 onwards to be slim and athletic. So I'm not being big about it, but I worked for it and I achieved it. And so many times, obviously, I freelance in different gyms, and I hear different people, oh, the older you get, it's harder. And then you've got amazing people like Ernest Einstein, a lady from America who started relatively late exercising, competed in competition. She's 81, and she looks fabulous, you know. She's quite well known now as well. And so I thought, I'm going to use a friend of mine, a dear friend called Donna. She's 56 this year. She relatively late started training. She's got an amazing body. She had her second child at the age of 42. She's gone into personal training now. So I just think it's all in the mind in regards to it as well, basically. I think if you set your mindset to something, you can achieve it. But what a lot of people don't understand with the mind is, how can I explain? The mind is like a survival. It's what you feed it, and it's basically, a lot of people don't know what the subject regarding the egoic. The egoic mind, how can I explain it so someone could understand where I'm coming from? It's the delusional side of the brain. So, for example, you're not good enough to do this. You're not good enough to do that. Have you actually given it a try before you dictate to yourself?
So we're talking we're talking about negative thoughts here, really.
Yeah? Basically, it's feeding it. It's basically feeding it, and that's how the ego grips you in. And it makes you think the worst. And I hear it a lot. I can't do this and I can't do that. I mean, you've got an amazing people. You've got Stephen Hawking, who was disabled, and his brain is just magnificent. You know, the guy is a genius. So it's, again, all in the mind, basically. Absolutely. But the book, I based it on I'm a converted Buddhist, so I put a lot of exercises to do with the mind in regards to meditation, having the right mindset. So sometimes we're all human, we have ups and downs, life can take you down, but what actually are you going to get out of it? Stressing, that's my point. It's not exactly going to wave a magic wand and then boom, you've got your result. It's a learning process, basically. That's my point.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you know, me and we were just talking about in the studio earlier on about, you know, the power of the mind, how important it is. And look, I mean, I'd like to, because there's maybe some listeners out there thinking, well, hang on, how does this relate to me? How is this relevant to kind of what I do day in, day out? This is too far-fetched for me. Now, look, the simple example I will give is look, at the beginning of Ramadan, Greg, Reda, Helena, we sit there and we think, oh my days, you know what? I'm going to be fasting for 19 hours. I cannot eat, I cannot drink, I cannot do any of that for the next 19 hours. And you just kind of think, well, how am I going to do it? I can't manage. I mean, you've known me long enough, Helena. I eat 4 or 5 meals a day. I was talking to someone about this earlier on. I'm constantly eating. And at the beginning of the month, I'm like, how am I going to do it? You know, it kind of hits you. But what gets us through it is the mindset. It's very, very simple, because when you turn around and you say, right, I'm fasting. So now, Greg, if you're fasting, I turn around and say to you, would you like a bottle of water? What are you going to say back to me?
Sorry, would I like the bottle or you?
Yeah, if you're fasting and I say to you, would you like some water? What are you going to say back to me?
If it's my type of fasting, I mean,
if it's a Ramadan fast,
fast, no water.
No
it's
water.
Simple. It's just off the menu.
Great, it's
there.
really no different. Look, because actions. Where do actions come from? Is decisions. Where do they come from? Is decisions. Now, look, if someone's a smoker, right? If someone's a smoker, for example, and today, right now, they make a conscious decision that, you know what, bam, I'm a non-smoker. So when someone comes up to them now and says, would you like a cigarette? What are they going to say? No, I'm a non-smoker. It's a mindset. It's a mindset. And what makes us or breaks us in life is our mindset.
There's something interesting you said, Helena, regarding, in your book, the egoic mind. A good little example of the egoic mind would be if you're walking around a supermarket and you've chosen, somebody said, right, I'm going to eat healthily now. I'm going to go to the supermarket, I'm going to buy it. And they'll walk through the fruit and veg and the head's quiet. They might even put some stuff, into the basket. And as they walk through and they walk past the biscuit and croissant, and suddenly the head will start talking to them. Oh, but what about if I just take a little walk down here and just have a little look? All the bad food will have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
All the good food.
That's what it does.
It's silent. It's almost like the egoic mind will step in and it'll tell you a story. It'll try and deceive you. And it's sneaky. It really is.
Do you know what? It sounds like Islamically what we would call the nafs, the inner self.
Yes.
Talking to you. So, how many times, our listeners out there have we thought, you know what, let me pray. It's time to pray. And then your inner self turns around, your egoic mind turns around and says to you, do it later, do it later, do it later, and that leads to then the procrastination, isn't it? So my point is this, is that I just wanted to kind of, before you carry on, Helena, talking about, talking about the psychological side of things, just bring it home and relate it back to our listeners and explain the fact that these things do directly affect us. They are, effective tools, and it's things that we are faced to day. It doesn't matter whether you're what of your creed or your religion or anything like that. And Islamically, like we say, just to summarize, mind over matter is Ramadan. You fast, you make a decision, you know you're fasting, and then you know what? Greg, I always say if you do something with a clean heart and a clear intention, the Lord, however you happen to look at him, puts blessings into it. And it's very, very simple, isn't it, Helena? In that you make that decision to fast, and then by the end of it, at the end of the month, you look back and you think, how on earth did I do that? Isn't it, Heather? Would you agree with that?
Definitely, I'd agree. I was actually talking to my mum about it. It was yesterday, where I was like, a day before Ramadan, we were saying, Mum, I'm not going to be able to have lunch tomorrow. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And we're like, I'm going to struggle the first day. And you know what? The first day, lunchtime came. Yeah, obviously, it'll be a lie if you say you're not hungry. But you come to it and you tell yourself, you can't eat. And that's it. You just get on with it. Exactly. And then the hunger just goes.
And that's just it. That's the subconscious message that you keep sending yourself. So, okay, great. So your book talks about the egoic mind. I mean, come on, don't tell us we have to buy it to flipping find out a little bit more, Helena. You can spill a couple more beans, can't you?
Yeah, well, it's just basically the mindset of it. It's giving examples, how to prepare yourself. I mean, like, if you look at it, Rome wasn't built in a day. It came from an idea mentally, yes and no? Like the architect, to get the surroundings, how it did, and then it moved on to the actual production of it. It's basically on that same level. If you want to do something, you're going to do it, basically. And I've used countless examples. For example, if you're a parent, be an example to your children. Do you want your children to see you sitting on the couch and complaining, my waistline's getting really big, and then you're scoffing yourself with crisps and lard down you? What kind of an example are you setting on your children? Be active. And then this day and age, everything's about, rushing. What's going to do in 10 minutes? This exercise is going to get you like that. It actually is not going to get you like that. And it's like anything. You work for it and you make time. If you've got time to watch EastEnders, the latest celebrity gossip, why not convert that time into doing something active? So I've used examples like that. I've used real life people, like I said with my friend, being in her 50s, relatively late training turned her life. She's actually competed and won a few titles. I've spoken about how the egoic, like Greg mentioned, it creeps up on you, how to deal with it, having a mindset, the difference between the mindset to being mindless and what mindless actually does to the body. It attacks the body.
Okay, talk to us about that. What we saying here? Mindless. What do we mean by that? Mindless.
Well, when you're mindless, you're not aware. And when you're not aware, you're not in the present moment. When you're not in the present moment, you're not learning. You're not seeing what's around you. You're delusional. Okay. It's straight. I'm just giving it straight as it is, basically. Being aware, you see your flaws, you see your strengths, you see your journey, where you're going to, where you're not going to. If you become mindless, you're just going to be in a repetitive pattern, going round and round in circles constantly. That's the point it's making, the difference between the two. Okay. But I've just covered it, obviously. I've given you in more of a straightforward answer rather than going into the book, different parts of it and stuff.
No, we don't want to do that. We want our listeners to go out and buy it, don't we, Helena? So this book is available on Amazon, is it? Yeah. So how can we get this book? Tell us, man.
It's on Amazon. It's called 40 Fit and Fabulous, Book 1, the Mindset Edition. And like I said, the next one coming out is going to be nutrition. Awesome. Following that will be about exercises.
Awesome. So it's like a little bit like Lord of the Rings, yeah, in 3 parts.
Yeah, if you want to put it like that, yeah.
Awesome. So, look.
Just without the war going on, it's just to help people. Like one person it's going to relate to, another person it's not going to relate to.
Yeah, no, 100%.
You can only reach certain people. If people want to listen, they want to listen. But the reason I wrote the book is just to give an example. We can all sit there wishing. We can wish for this, we can wish for that. But the reality is time flows by and before you know it, you're on a Zimmer frame. Get up and just do something about it. That's my point.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of, more so important for our, like in our culture, we say our aunties, our uncles, isn't it, Elena? Yeah, because our aunties and uncles will sometimes turn around and say, "Well, mate, I'm past it now. What am I going to do now?" And again, it boils down to that mindset, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's how you direct it. It's if you want to do something, you're going to do it. But if you allow negative thoughts to take over you, you will not move forward. Simple. You're not aware.
Absolutely. So, okay. So, guys, keep an eye out for Helena's book. Let's go out and support it and do what we can. But Helena, I know you're really, really hot on kind of community issues and stuff as well. It's something you're really, really passionate about, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and we're coming. It's coming up. Is it today or is it over the next couple of days? The 1-year anniversary of the Grenfell Tower tragedy.
Yes, not something like that. Yeah, I can't remember the actual date.
I think it's over the next couple of days anyway, isn't it? But Helena, I'm sure you got loads of thoughts on that one. Culture us.
Yeah, I do.
Culture us.
I do. Okay. Obviously, we all know that it was cheap cladding on them buildings and that caused it. I kind of think it was a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, you look at the area, it's divided rich and poor. That was just a disaster waiting in itself to happen. Simple. I don't care what media covers, media says this. Somebody has got blood on their hands. And obviously, everybody's just they're too fixated on covering up, saving each other's back, and not looking at the reality. There's been broken homes. Children have died. Kids have died. I mean, I had 2 friends that were firemen that were actually there. And what they were reporting on the media was the death was very low compared to what actually the deaths were. I mean, at the time, I remember it was something like 80 people. I can't obviously name names that are friends of mine that are firemen, but there was like 200, and they were still counting heads. And I don't think we've been given the full story. And kind of like, personally, this is my opinion, I think obviously it was a disaster waiting to happen, but I think that was purposely done so they can reconstruct that and make that into rich buildings for the rich.
So when you say a disaster waiting to happen, I presume what you mean by that is because of the nature of the cladding.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I mean, you look at them kind of blocks, they've got so many old fashions. It's not just in West London. You have them in Edmonton, and there's been fires there years ago. I remember there was a tower block. I think it's still there, and they've just about maintained it because it's not a very exclusive part of Edmonton. But I remember a fire breaking out, and it just spreaded around, and they just refurbished it and then boom, done it again. I mean, you look up in East London, I'm trying to remember the actual name of the road. There was asbestos. And they knew about this as well because a friend of mine worked on the council, and then it was another thing, just waiting to just bring the building down basically so they can build luxury flats because it was an up-and-coming area.
Yeah, sure. Can I just come in on it for a second? I think there's don't want to throw it open too widely, but there's it's almost like the disaster waiting to happen. There are so many disasters waiting to happen. Yeah. I mean, if you look at, like, say, example, take it further over to America, another shooting. I've got this question. Yeah. And what's the number? What's the number of people that are required to die before somebody actually says, do you know what? This isn't right. I mean, I would like to know what it is. And then to bring it back here, you say, so if it comes to, like, say, for example, the cladding, which is used in Grenfell, they should straight away be looking at all other construction and building and not trying to cower or let's bring it as close as we can. Make it safe. It's simple. They're people's lives. How many people have to die in respects to, like, mobile phones being used in cars? And my commute takes me home on a motorbike, and I can just on the way home people are using their phones, and it just seems to be once again, how many more people before they start.
Well, how did it get through? One thing I've never been able to understand is how did that building pass building regulations? That's one thing that I've never been able to get through me. I've never been able to absorb is that if it's that unsafe, then how did it get through in the first place? Can you see where I'm coming from? And it comes back to what you're saying about, and I know Helena is a big one on this, and she's a big one on conspiracy theories and all the rest of it. But how many people does it take to die? Well, maybe I say they in inverted speech marks don't want to notice. Maybe they don't want to see. Maybe it is what I don't know. It's complicated, isn't it, Helena?
Well, yeah, it is. It's kind of like it brings you back to that subtitle, Rule and Divide. Straight away with West London, you've got the rich part and the poorer part. Let's just make it all rich for the rich people and the city people to reside. That's how I look at it in my point of view. I mean, to go deeper, when you look at government in itself, when you actually look what represents government, it's actually people. I didn't ask for a war. I didn't ask them to go in and bomb this country and that country. At the end of the day, sometimes I come into London, I'll give you an example, and the numbers of people that I actually see living on the streets is just disturbing in this day and age. Really disturbing. You've got money for wars, but you haven't got money for people. People can't even sign on because they haven't got an address. It's disturbing. And straight away, like, you've got the media and they turn it around. They brainwash people's views. Oh, they're just junkies. They're human beings. That is a person. I've worked like voluntary work a few years ago, and I'll never forget a young girl. She was living on the street because she felt safer because she was getting sexually harassed by her own father and uncle. She wasn't a junkie.
God forbid.
Yeah, she was helped, but that's not the point. It's still accumulating in numbers. That's the point I'm making. And if we are the people, I just feel like everybody's brainwashed sometimes, We've got certain norms. You have to do this. No, you don't have to do this. If we are the actual people, if you look at legislation, people are government and stuff, why are we not getting a voice in? We've got people in there deciding for us. Right, we're going to cut the meals, for example, for children at school. There's poor families, that child is growing up. You're messing with the adolescents. They're growing up and stuff, their mental phase.
Well, that's another one, isn't it? Because there's some kids who can't, if they don't get that school meal, then that's it. They don't eat.
Well, you just got to look at the amount of food banks that are opening up, and even supermarkets are doing it. I mean, Costa... I'm a great lover of Costa coffee, and the amount of food that they waste, we was trying to get them to save that and give it to the homeless, and a few of them actually do that, which is really, really nice and sweet. But it's not the point. In this day and age, that should not be happening, and this always comes down to, our funds are low, but we've got so much billion or whatever to bail us out of the EU. We've got that much billion for wars and this and that. I'm sorry, but it's wrong. It's written plain and simple, and if people want to listen to the news and stuff, that's why I just don't listen to it, because there's always lies.
No, well, Helena, going back to your point where we've got a lot of homeless people on the streets. I mean, when the storms were, they had emergency accommodation for all of them. Now where's all that accommodation gone?
When we had the snow,
when we had all the storm and the snow, where's all that accommodation gone? And that comes to show. I mean, there is a place for everyone, but
it's like the funds for Greenfields. Where have they gone?
Yeah,
there's no. If we are the government and we're representing the government as people, we have a right to see reports to see where taxpayers' money is actually going to.
Definitely.
But we don't. We could just get dictated, and then you've got people. Oh, okay, we have to listen to that. I mean, this day and age, everybody's just enticed. What celebrities doing? Well, they're just idols. They're people that don't even love you. They just love you, the fact that you're feeding their pockets. Simple fact.
And I think sometimes we forget, when you say the taxpayer, Helena, that's you. That's me.
Thank you.
Greg.
Now, did you opt for the royal wedding? Did you opt for the royal wedding to have any of that taxpayers' money funded to them when that could have been accumulated to people?
Oh, mate, Helena, come on, man.
That's my point.
Come on. We need to drag this conversation back up. You're getting me off on one now. You're getting me emotional here, girl. You're getting me
Sorry,
emotional.
I'm just going deep. I'm very deep soul on that.
I hear you. We know that. But look, it is what it is, isn't it? I mean, look, the key thing is, I mean, look, let's bring it back because you've got to kind of get cracking on in a couple of minutes, isn't it? You got
I've got to get to work.
You got to get to work. Yeah, is look, and I think you kind of summed it up in keeping, your brain pure and your brain focused, and it's sometimes about not letting negativity creep into your brain, isn't it? Yeah, because like Greg was saying earlier on, is that we are a reflections of our thoughts, and our thoughts affect our actions. If you want to change somebody's action, what you got to do is change the thought process, and once the thought process change, then the actions change. All right, so yeah, I mean, coming back and bringing it kind of all the way back round, it's about keeping that brain as clear and focused as possible. It's about having those positive thoughts, and that's why I don't listen to the news as well, because all it does is it breeds negativity. Negativity breeds negativity. That's all it does. And that's why, I mean, lots of people will say to me, Shweb, what are you like? Current affairs, this, that. You need to know what's going on. I don't need to know what's going on. I'll tell you why I don't need to know what's going on, because all that I'm being told is going on is...
It's the same old. It's the same old.
Isn't it?
I could do a news report for you right now, which is a politician has lied.
Yeah.
Something's happened in Brexit.
Yeah.
Somebody got shot.
Yeah.
And on a lighter note.
And Arsenal lost away from home.
That's the news.
Hey, leave my football team alone, guys. That's a sore subject now.
Oh, mate, I know. You got a new manager though.
I know.
Well, he's not been.
Just not talk about football.
He's not been announced yet, but he's pretty much there or thereabout, isn't he? Unai Emery, I think his name is, or something like that. Yeah. It's all good though. It's all good.
Don't worry, I've got your number if we start winning again. Don't worry.
It's all good, mate. It's all good. If we win on Saturday, I'll be on the phone to you if we win on Saturday. So don't you worry about that. Don't you worry about that.
But what I would. Finishing it off, what I would say to someone in regards to a mindset around Ramadan, I would say, like, my best advice, I would say to an individual, write down, like, be aware of what Ramadan's about, write some key notes, basically, and just keep reminding and referring yourself to them every day, and keeping yourself in the present.
Isn't it? That's awesome.
One way what I do, one way, like everybody has a stressful day, but what I do is I meditate and I just say, I am love, I am love, and I keep repeating that basically, and I remind myself what my purpose for the day and my tasks, what I need to do as well, and it actually works. It really does work. I mean, I worked today. I went in to teach this morning, and there's a lady there, and she was actually fasting. We had a gentleman come in, and he was just very rude towards her. She got sensitive, so I said, come in the room and just meditate. And I tried it with her, and she was fine afterwards. She was focused, and when you're not eating, you can get emotional. But you've just got to remind yourself of that present moment. You're going to get ratty. Like me, if I was fasting, I'm going to be really honest, I love food too as well. And I have fasted before. You know, and you can get irritable and that, but you have to remind yourself the purpose, what you're doing it for.
Yeah, absolutely.
And once you're aware and conscious, boom.
Yeah, definitely. Now, look, we're going to pick up on this point, goal setting and setting your goals and writing them down. We're going to talk about that, but I'm conscious that we've got to let you go, Helena. We've got time. We've got another half an hour, but you got to crack on and
I've got to get to a client.
All right, no problem. Well, listen, Helena, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Yeah,
Thank you.
Your Twitter handle is at Helena Phil
Fit,
isn't it? Yeah. So that's HELENA Philfit. Helena Feel Fit, yeah?
Yes.
So, guys, feel free to give her a poke and a prod and ask her any questions that you might have as well. Helena, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, Helena, you take care,
Definitely. God bless.
Yeah.
You too, Greg, and give me a call, young man. It's been too long.
Will do.
All right,
All right, take care.
God bless you all.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Excellent. Now, guys, I mean, I just want to pick up on this point, and I think Helena, and I say this for everyone listening in. It doesn't always take someone who is Muslim to have a Muslim mentality. Now, this simple concept of goal setting, what is goal setting? Goal setting is having your targets in front of you, knowing what you want to achieve, when you want to achieve it by. But what is the thing about goal setting is writing that goal down on paper. Now, what is the difference between writing it on paper and it just being swimming around in your head? It's when it's in your head, it's not tangible. It's not tangible. What we mean by tangible is you can't touch it, see it, feel it, hear it. It's not real. It's just a thought. It's just a fantasy. Now, when you write that same goal down on paper in black and white, it becomes real.
And you've even done studies to show that those who write their goals
100%.
down. Yeah, it's
now,
it's been studied.
These goals can be work-related. These goals can be spiritual goals. Now, look, what did Helena say? She's saying, write down your goals for Ramadan. Now, how much charity do you want to give? How many prayers? How many times are you going to come to the evening prayers? The night prayers, we call it Taraweeh, yeah? It's the night prayers. How many of those are you going to make? How many extra prayers are you going to do? How many good deeds are you going to do? Write them down. And you know what? When you write them down, you put them down on paper, they become real. And I was having a conversation with a very, very dear friend of mine just before Ramadan began. And I said to him, what are you doing this weekend? And you know what he said to me, Greg? You know what he said, Heather? He said, I'm going to take Saturday off. I've got obscene amounts of work to do. Yeah, my boss. My boss. Those of you listening in who knows who my boss is, you know who my boss is. But he said, all I'm going to do on Saturday is plan my Ramadan. I need to get it down on paper, what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it. Now, how many of us can safely say that we have planned our Ramadan? Or are we just like a feather in the wind and going whichever way that the wind blows?
There's a good little respect to the goal setting. Some people can be a bit daunted by, say, for example, a month of something or a big period of time. And a nice metaphor to look at is a driving one, where if you were driving from, say, London to, everybody will pick Scotland because it's far enough away, but if you were driving from London to, say, Glasgow in the middle of the night, all you see, if your headlights, is the next 200 metres. Don't worry about the service station 50 miles or 100 miles, or when you're going to fill up. You've got these little goals as you go along. So all you have to do is just focus on, take the word worry out, focus on the moment that you're in. You're going to have good moments, you're going to have bad moments. And especially during the month of Ramadan, I mean, like a friend of mine who I spoke to about what it means for him. And it's to remind him that the feeling of, like, say, his hunger is to actually have empathy and understanding for those who don't have. And that's what he keeps written down. That's what his Ramadan means for him. So when it comes to that point where he's hungry and he's, thinking, bring it back to your purpose, bring it back to the reason why. And when your why is strong enough, the how of what you do becomes so much easier.
Absolutely. And this comes back to mindset. I'm coming back to that root thing that we're saying, that what will make us or break us in this, not only in this Ramadan, but in this lifetime and in the hereafter as well, if you want to take it that far, is our mindset. It really is as simple as that, because like Greg's just said, it's the why. If your why is big enough. Why am I doing this? Why am I wanting to go and pray my salah at the mosque? Why am I wanting to do tarawih? Why am I wanting to even stay hungry for the next 19 hours? I'm thirsty. Why am I wanting to pay my charity? Why am I wanting to help an old lady across the street? When your why is strong enough, then the how takes care of itself. And again, in terms of the goal setting, you turn around and you put that goal down on that bit of paper to say, I want to achieve this by this date. Then you know what? It's almost like the universe gets out of your way, isn't it, Greg? And things start to happen. Yeah. And you know what? One other reason that I'm a firm believer that people are actually afraid to write their goals down, Greg, is that they're afraid that they'll actually achieve them.
Haven't heard that one. That's interesting.
Good way of putting it. Yeah.
Because we're so used to dealing with failure in this society. What does it do? Is it sets us up for failure? Yeah. And all it does is it brainwashes us into thinking a certain way, being inside the box, clocking in at 9, going on at 5, doing what you've got to do. Now, all of a sudden, because we're so used to being mediocre in this country, especially, isn't it? Yeah, we're so used to it's fine, it's all right. No, it's not all right. No, it's not all right. Don't be normal. Be abnormal. Be exceptional.
Do you know which word I love? This is a word that when I write it down, it cracks me up. Extraordinary.
Extraordinary, yeah.
Well, no. Just take the extra away and you just got ordinary.
Yeah.
Why do you have to be extraordinary? It's the word doesn't seem to fit the actual description of what they're trying to say. It's a bit of a be kind of extra all right.
Extra all right.
I'm extra all right.
Yeah.
I'm extra okay.
Extra average. Extra average.
That's what it does.
And it's and I think this is a symptom. I don't know if it's a symptom, maybe it's the root cause, but it's we are, I think, in this society afraid of success. We're not afraid of failure anymore, per se. We're afraid of success. Guys, what are your thoughts? We need to get some calls in, man. We need to hear what you people are saying. We've been so intensely engrossed. We even haven't even taken a break in the last couple of hours. So, you know what? We're just going to run through now, isn't it, guys? Yeah. What do you say?
Yeah.
Should we just run through? So, call into the studio, guys. The number is 0333 011 6786. Yeah. Any questions that you got? You still. No one's told me what they're having for iftar tonight. I don't even know what I'm having for iftar. Hadar, what are you having for iftar tonight, bro?
I think my mom's making keema. Chicken keema.
Fam.
Which is chicken mince.
Chicken mince. Curry. Everything's a curry.
Literally.
Everything's a curry.
Chicken mince curry.
Yeah. If you've ever been, have you been around my house, Greg?
I've had some food around yours. I'm sure I have.
Yeah, I think you have actually. Yeah, everything's a curry. Yeah, it's as simple and as straightforward as that. What's Greg? What are you having for iftar tonight, man?
Well. I'm waiting for my wonderful wife to. She's the magic cook. I'm the cleaner.
Okay.
She does the cooking. So.
Okay.
But
so,
no.
If you're anything like me, you've got the perfect relationship, the perfect 50-50 relationship in your house. Can I get an R? I would like
to say that. That's
very, very perfect 50-50 relationship. She cooks, I eat. I dirty the clothes, she washes them.
See, I wouldn't last long with that.
No. She knows I love her. She's listening in as well, I think. So we love you.
Just got to chuck that in there before I go home.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, I ain't getting no iftari tonight. I have no idea. I honestly have no idea. But talk to us, man. I mean, what do you like having for iftar, Heather?
Well, I just like, after the whole day, you haven't really had anything to eat, and you really want something like your own food. So I personally like a chapati, which we call roti, and a curry, and pretty much that. Maybe a couple times in the week, maybe something fried, just to kill the craving. Because when you are fasting, anything you look at, right, it just looks nice. Even if you've never had it before, right, it will just look nice.
Yeah. You've seen Shallow Hal, right?
No.
You ain't seen the movie?
Shallow Hal, yes. Sorry, I have seen Shallow.
Yeah. So look, and this kind of comes back, Greg, to what we were saying and what Dr. Zaf was saying as well, isn't it? The fact that if you're going to train after iftar, which is the time that we break the fast, we call it iftar, yeah? If you're going to train after iftar, a couple of hours, now if you've stuffed yourself with samosas and onion bhajis and fried stuff, how are you going to be able to train?
It's interesting you say that. My friend of mine who I went and had a chat with last week, and I was asking about what he does in respect to his Ramadan. And he'll say that his description of breaking the fast is his stomach is contracted and very small at that point. So to go and put a big meal in there is actually quite a forceful thing. So just to gently break the fast, you'll have some water with a couple of dates. And then from there, he'll have a light, small meal. Just let that settle, let that sit. He'll go and do prayers, then come back for some more, at which point the stomach will have expanded just a little bit more to be able to take some more food. So he has that plan. He knows how to just, enjoy the food. And we were discussing also, because I haven't done it in respect to anything religious or spiritual, but I've done 24-hour fast before and I've had water during it. But when I go to break the fast, I'll look at a pepper and it's the most amazing pepper in the world. Or I'll eat a carrot and go, that's the best carrot in existence. Whatever it is just you really, really taste it like you've never tasted it before. It's just you go, thank you so much for this. And it's just, I think it's something where in this society, I was even speaking to somebody about being my age, back in the 70s, you would have like a breakfast, lunch and dinner. And I remember seeing somebody eating at 10 o'clock at night. They said, well, what are you doing? I'm having something to eat. Why? You should have eaten. You should have had your food.
You used to have the TV adverts where people used to sneak down and have cornflakes in it.
Yeah,
do you remember
that's
them?
the one. And then came in with the food companies saying, like a finger of fudge is just enough until it's time to eat, or have something light like a dairy. I can't remember it. Some Cadbury's bar that's light and fluffy in between meals. And they actually started selling the idea that it's okay, and then suddenly we've just got this conveyor belt of food which just doesn't seem to stop. So when you get to a point like now where there is an absolute definite, sunrise, nothing, and going the whole day. And I have to actually, it's when I do some fasting myself in respects to, I will do like what you can do a 16/8 fast where, let's say I finish eating at 6 in the evening, and then a couple of hours before bed, 9 o'clock, into bed, go to sleep. And the thing there is you're actually sleeping through the night, so you're actually burning off the glycogen during the night. Then you wake up, and then you may go through to 12 o'clock, so you skip breakfast, and that'll be that's about 18, so maybe 10 o'clock. That'll give you about 16 hours, and at that point there, you then break the fast. But the thing is, you're staying awake during the fast. That's the thing. Like people who do it for like health and fitness get to sleep 8 hours of it. That's a big thing to remember as well. And
this is sometimes, something that gets lost in translation, I think sometimes, Greg, is this month of Ramadan is meant to be a month of physical and spiritual cleansing. Those 30 days, that you're fasting for, and, like you're saying, you're driving in the dark, you've got your headlights, you're just looking at, the next, however many meters it is in front of you that you can actually physically see. Now, we can't see until the end of the month. All we can see is the next hour or the next 2 hours or until the end of the day. But it's almost like that. It's almost like having your engine of a car cleansed. Now, you take it in, you have it serviced. That car's good to go for the next year or so, at least, isn't it? And that's exactly what Ramadan does to us, bro. It's that spiritual and physical cleansing. And the whole point of that cleanse is you can't cleanse the system if you're overeating.
No.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
The whole point of a detox is to eat less and excrete more. That's the point of a detox, isn't it? Yeah. And this is where, it's got taken a little bit out of been lost in translation, because, I'm like Haider. I just prefer to have a very simple, very light meal for my iftar, and you know, I've been quite naughty previous years, but this year's even my morning meal, which is called the suhoor meal, has been really light as well. So even this morning, all I had was had a slice of toast and quite a lot of liquid, and some watermelon. That's pretty much the size of it. And you're thinking, well, how can you last throughout the day? And it doesn't matter what you eat. Honestly, Greg, it doesn't matter what you eat. You could eat a horse, but you know what? You'd wake up and you'd still be hungry by 10 o'clock. It's really weird. It's really bizarre. You could eat a horse. You could eat a slice of toast. You still wake up. You're still hungry by 10 o'clock. You know, it's just, you know, the way is kind of conditioning, the way we've conditioned ourselves into having those meals and stuff, isn't it? And it's just breaking that. And it's really, you know, really powerful what Helena said is, you know, have that vision of, and that goal and that target of what are you trying to achieve, you know, in this Ramadan. And if all you're trying to, you know, you're not going to achieve near, you know, any level of,
what was that?
Caller.
There you go.
Okay. Caller. Okay. Hello. Here we go. Assalamu alaikum. Hello. Do we have you, caller? Assalamu alaikum. Are you still there? No. I did do it properly. All right, they'll call back, hopefully.
We'll hear back.
We'll call back, yeah. So, what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying.
I'll come straight with the way. So, Helena's saying about the big picture.
Yeah.
But what's also, what was great that she said was also being mindful. Be present in what you're doing. That just brings it back to the whole thing of just looking down the road, just looking what's in front of you. Don't get too consumed by what's happening next week or the week after. Don't worry, it's going to come. Next week will come and tomorrow will come.
Definitely.
And then it just makes it easier to compartmentalize that moment and deal with what's in front of you.
Yeah. Because you know, if you look back at, because Greg, as Muslims, what we do is we follow the example of the Prophet Muhammad, isn't it? And if you look at the example of the Prophet Muhammad and his disciples, they never wanted the month to end. They fast. They'd start preparing, 2-3 months before Ramadan for Ramadan, and then once Ramadan finished, they'd sort of like just carry it on. So they'd literally be like Ramadan 24/7s for them.
So it's been reined in. It's been reined in, and
can you see what I'm saying? Yeah. And this is where it is, and this is where we lose the essence, because what Ramadan has become these days, it's almost like how Christmas has become for the Christian faith. It's become very commercial. It's become very diluted. So it's literally a case now that people are starving themselves. Now, look at the difference. Are we starving ourselves for 19 hours and then stuffing our faces? Or are we spiritually and physically cleansing ourselves during this month? This is the question. Because, look, I know we've had this chat. You believe in a God, a higher power, a higher force, whatever you might want to call it.
There's something there.
Yeah, there's something there, isn't there, Greg? Yeah. Now, whatever that force, I forgot what I was going to say now. I've totally lost my trail of thought.
Well, to help you with that, like the idea of like the higher power is just something that's not the voice in my head.
Yeah.
So it's just something which is the truth.
That's the inner self.
It's that moment where I don't want to do something, and that little tap on the shoulder, and something comes in and goes, you have to tell the truth here, you have to go back. I was even walking down the road here today, and there was an old guy coming towards me, and all I did was step off the pavement, and I was just thinking, and the guy thanked me and said, "Fussy, you really didn't have to do that, mate." But there was a voice in my head that said, "Don't try and beat him to the gap." He's an old man. Just get out the way. Let him have the pavement.
Must be really old if he was older than you, Greg. Flip it out.
That's a low blow, man.
But what I'm saying is, I decided in my head it was just like a kind of like a little tap on the shoulder, and so if that's just something, a better way of thinking. The fact that I don't own the road when I drive and let people out, and it doesn't matter if people don't say thank you. If you let them out, it's okay. They're busy doing some other stuff.
My mum, bless her. You know what she said to me? This is going back. I was on the road as well, actually, and I'd given someone way and they didn't say thank you. And you know what my mum said to me, and it will live with me forever. She said, Shweb, don't do a good deed for the sake of hearing a thank you.
Absolutely, 100%. It's like, to follow that, when you drop your expectations, nobody can fail you.
yeah, absolutely. So, Greg, we've got about 5 to 10 minutes left, yeah?
Yes.
Now, I know there's people who are going to ask me these questions, and we got you here and stuff, and we've had a lot of, obviously we had Helena on the phone for a bit, we had Doc on the phone for a bit, but look, a couple of key questions that people always ask me. One, bulking up. What is the best way to bulk up and get hench?
Okay, so if people want the size for when they're training, it's not just a matter of lifting, it's lifting the correct weight for the correct amount of time. So a nice simple way of doing it would be, if I can explain this, you need to do a set of whatever it is, whether you're doing a chest press or a pull down or a curl, between 40 and 60 seconds. Okay, so the next thing is, well, how many reps can you do within 40 to 60 seconds? So let's say, for example, you're doing a bench press, and you time it to bring the bar down for 2 seconds and press it back up for 2 seconds. That's 4 seconds. That's one rep. So it's going to take you 40 seconds to do 10 reps, and if you take it past that, around about 12 is where you want to be kind of wrapping it up towards. You want to be breaking. You want to be feeling that you're overloading at that point.
Sorry, what do you mean by overloading for the benefit?
Overloading. So you want to make sure that you're feeling that you're running out of juice and energy to be able to press the bar safely and effectively.
Okay.
So what you don't want to do is press with bad form. You finish on a good, well executed repetition. Your body remembers what you finish on, whether you finish well or poorly. So if you finish with bad reps, your body's going to remember the bad reps. So always finish with good form. But to go on from there, what you then need to do is you then need to do enough of what's called volume. So obviously not to be performed during the month of Ramadan, but there's a thing called German volume training.
Okay.
So if you want to put some size on, you do 10 sets of 10, and you take a weight that you can comfortably perform for 10 reps within those time parameters that I've just given.
Yeah.
So around about 40, 60 seconds, you take a 60-second rest.
Yeah.
Come back, do it again.
Yeah.
40 seconds on, take a rest. And you repeat that 10 times.
Okay.
And by the end of the 10th set, you will just about to be able to get that bar out with good form at the end. And that will be enough overloading to have what's called a cellular breakdown. And that's what will then obviously give you a catabolic effect. The catabolic effect is the breaking of muscle, which will then rebuild to become bigger.
So ultimately, when we're doing resistance training, we're doing weights training, we're damaging the muscle tissue, very simply speaking, aren't we? Yeah.
Absolutely, micro tears. A lot of micro tears in the muscle fibers. The other one is not to be confused with gaining size and gaining strength are actually two different things. They're on the same continuum, but when you do strength training, you're actually breaking down you're overloading your central nervous system. You're like imagine somebody's turned all the lights on the house and you're having a power overload. It's really bright. So the idea is that you would do, say, for example, if you want to build your strength in your chest, you would do, like, say, 3 to 5 reps within, say, 15 seconds. But if you want size, you've got to go that bit further. You've got to go 40 to 60 seconds. And those are the basic guidelines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you're anything like me, you're not on the I want to get hench side of the spectrum. You're on the, you know what, I just want to lose a little bit of weight and tone up side of the spectrum. So what's the best thing to do for that?
Okay, you want to look at what are called whole body compound exercises.
Okay.
So you want to do things that basically do something like a squat, bending action, your ability to lift off the ground, deadlifting. We're not talking about massive weights, we're just safely lifting, so just strong, get your back strong. To be able to lunge. Something may drop on the ground, your car keys, kids running past you, you're going to go into a lunge position. The other ones are to be able to push, to be able to pull. And then the last one is to be able to twist. Those are your basic movement patterns. So if you can incorporate... I'll give you a quick one then. So you do something like, say, a squat with a press overhead. You could do a lunge with a twist with a medicine ball. A deadlift with a... I'm trying to think which one I left out. Deadlift. So bent over row. Bent over row would give you the bend pattern. With a row. And when you get this, that'll give you enough. You don't have to go into... So what you're saying is, if you want to lose weight and tone up, there's no point in doing little tiny bicep curls, which only works one little tiny muscle. You want to work big muscles,
exercises,
big muscle groups,
big
muscles in your legs, your hip muscles, your glutes, your quads, your hamstrings. Get your lats, get your chest in there. Get those. Get the big guns going.
And what about cardio?
Depends what you want it for. If you want it for fat burning, I think at this time now is the idea behind fat burn is not to produce stress hormones in your body. So like going for a walk is a brisk walk is a really good fat burning exercise because you should be able to prolong that you should be able to keep it going for a prolonged period of time. Little trick you can do, which I kind of alluded to earlier, was to do with the enzyme lipase. I'll say it. If you stimulate this lipase in your body for a walk in the morning, it spins it up for 12 hours. It'll drop back down, and if you then repeat that later on and do another 20 minutes, your body will be producing this fat burning enzyme 24 hours. If you're just active at the beginning of the day, active at the end of the day, that's a good way of otherwise keeping the waistline in check.
What we call the afterburn, isn't it?
Yes.
Absolutely. So yes,
I wanted to ask another question.
You don't need to put your hand up in the studio. Though.
I just thought I'd do that because I'm getting taught here. But it's going a little bit off topic. But before we finish, I wanted to know during Ramadan for sahur, so when we eat before we start the fast, what would you recommend we eat? What food groups? What would you recommend eating?
Just on the basis of nutrition. Just to go into it very quickly, obviously your glycogen stores are going to be down. So you're going to need a carbohydrate of some sort. So have a carbohydrate which is good in fiber and have a complex carbohydrate. So it's not something that's sugar-based. The next one is you're looking at your proteins.
So porridge, for example, would be good.
That would be a good one. This is complex starch.
Not doner kebab, no.
Complex carbohydrate.
Doner kebab, is that complex enough?
Which one? Sorry.
Doner kebab.
Doner kebab.
No.
Do you know? No, actually, no. Looking at it, so the bread depends on the pitta. Depends on the pitta. If it's good quality.
Trying to justify it. You know?
I was just thinking about that one.
My kind of guy.
But going back to it, with the actual. Then you're looking at your fats and your proteins. Once again, go for a whole food source. Don't go for anything processed. Home cooked. Get those herbs, get the spices in there, and then just take your time. Just eat slowly. Let your gastric juices work to break the food down, and that will help with your digestion. So enjoy the food. It doesn't have to go in quickly.
Awesome.
Unless you're running late.
Awesome. So. Guys, they say time flies when you're having fun.
There we go, buddy.
2 hours gone just like that. Want to say a big thank you to all of our guests today, actually. She's obviously not listening now, but when she looks back at the show on Facebook, Helena, thank you so much for coming on. Dr. Zafar, thank you so much for coming on. And Greg, it's been an absolute pleasure, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Enjoyed yourself?
I've enjoyed myself. It's
awesome. So, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure hosting Drive Time for you. We've got loads of guests lined up over the next couple of weeks. We have got... Shall I let the cat out of the bag? Yeah.
No.
No, we need to know what's happening next couple of weeks, isn't it?
But they've got a gist of what's going on
today. So we're going to have Muslim comedian Bilal Zafar coming on the show. Yeah, so those of you who have heard of him, he does stand-up comedy, halal stand-up comedy per se. He's going to be coming on the show. He's been on the BBC Asian Network and all the rest of it, so he's quite well known. So he's coming on the show. We've got Arfan Akram coming on the show, who works for Essex County Cricket Club, and hopefully he'll be bringing one of the Muslim cricketers with him as well. We've got Usman Shah coming on the show next week. We're going to be talking about employability, and because there's a lot of people out there who have done qualifications, gone to uni, and they're really struggling to get into work. And it's sometimes the finer, softer skills, just refining that CV or having the confidence to say the right thing at the right time to the right person in that interview, So Usman Shah is going to be coming on. We're trying to get Hamza from Diary of a Bad Man on. It's in process, so hopefully we'll be able to get him on as well. So some exciting shows, exciting guests coming up, guys. Just to let you know, guys, there's the Healthy Ramadan show on Thursday. I think it is at 2:00, and that will be following on nicely from what we've done, because what they're going to be looking at then is they're going to be looking at nutrition from a prophetic way, so according to Quran and Hadith. So what the Quran and what the Gospels, so the Islamic Gospels per se, what they say, how did the Prophet eat, how did he do this, how did he do this, so they're going to be talking about that in that show. So hopefully this show's kind of set you up a little bit for that one as well. But guys, thank you so much. Still no one told me what they're having for iftar tonight, man, which I'm not happy about. You told me, even Greg told me he's not having iftar even, so even he told me. But guys, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. We will see you inshallah next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Specialists